integrative experience between Jay and Art Harrington, who we've already been introduced. Art, could you give me 5 minutes and stand up and talk about what challenges you're facing, as you were telling Jay, relative to the way things are transforming, whether we like it or not?
One of the biggest problems that we have, and I'm the Rotary Regional Foundation Coordinator, and I have a territory that spans all of Arizona, Southern Nevada, Southern California, and Hawaii, is that's for peace between places. And there's not any way that you're going to get all those people together to train them or to work together in any one place and time. And so we have to do some things that are regionally based, try to get some people together that way. We also are having to look increasingly to technology to do training. For example, our program in Arizona for training leaders at the district levels, we're taking past club presidents and doing online academy training at their time, their place, whenever, to be able to go through a course of study. One of the biggest problems that we have as we look ahead and Rotary moves on is that we have all these pieces of the puzzle out here that we somehow have to connect together. And particularly as we move into future vision with our foundation, and our grants are going to be like $30,000 or more to be able to get global grants, we're going to have to think bigger. We're going to have to think collaboratively and pull people together into partnerships to be able to do these things. There are a few big clubs that could do some of these things by themselves. But for the most part, most of our clubs don't have that capacity. And that's true whether it's an Interact, Rotaract, or our Rotary clubs, because our clubs tend to be 45, 50 or less on the average. And so there's going to be a greater need for collaborative pulling together and working together, and for the big clubs to be able to reach out to smaller clubs and pull them in and help them, whether we're talking about Rotary or Rotaract or Interact, because we have some responsibility to others. But with that responsibility, as you take and you become a lead club in a project, comes certain coordination requirements. You can't just do it your own way on your own time in your own place. You've got to be able to think about, well, what does this club over here need from me? If I'm going to be lead dog in the pack, what do they need from me? What must I do along with what I would ordinarily do to get the job done? And so this is one of the great challenges that we face as we move on. To be able to understand we are part of a whole, we need each other, but we've got to figure out ways to effectively pull together and understand each other's needs and meet those needs as we maybe lead in a project, understanding that there's going to be many other pieces out here that still need to feel like they're very much a part. We don't want to just take their money and run, but we want them to feel like they are meaningful and valuable partners of this that we are doing together. So we're beginning to have to think in terms of the big picture, not just our own little niche where our club is in our community or our high school, but the whole picture, and how can we pull all these elements together? What does that mean? What tools are we going to have to use that maybe we've never used before? What responsibilities are we going to have to pick up and take for ourselves to be able to make all of this equation work? So those are some of the challenges that we're facing.
Wonderful. I thought that really said well what we're going to be talking about and what, how that brings me into the picture. My name's Howard Adams. I've been with Rotary Club about 2.5 years, I believe. And what's happened to me is basically I've been stepped in. I've been volunteered, as we all have been, as more or less an agent of change. Somebody that understands technology and understands business. And how do you bring the two together to make it work? Now I happen to be the district governor for this year and choose transformers. So part of what I'm looking at is planting the seeds with all of you on how to transform a little better. How can we operate a little better in this new world? We have Generation X, Generation Y, we have all these things that we have to cover. But to Today, for this 45 minutes, I want it to be interactive. I'll send you a picture of this presentation. If you come up and request it, I've got a sign-up sheet here, and I can send it to you. But this is mostly going to be for information for you to think about, for you to start spreading the word. Notice, here he is. I'm hearing him this morning, them talk about this, and he's using all the 6 C words. If you go and recite what he just said, give everything from content, commitment, coordination, collaboration, connecting, content, communication. One of the first things to think about when you're working with your organization and technology is, what is the technology going to be used for? It's one of these 6 things, if not more. So always think of the 6 C's. Commitment, collaboration, and coordination supports people in achieving results. It's very human. It's got to be a human interface that we enjoy working with. Okay? It's got to have a feel to it. It's not just what the technology can do, it's what we can do with the technology. When it comes to connection, content, and communication, it's the stuff that we're working with behind the technology. For instance, I'm going to be talking about a forum, social media, and stuff of that nature. The content of those is what we're exchanging. And you have to think in those 2 terms. Either content, connection, and communication, or in commitment, collaboration, or coordination. So just think of the 6 C's. And nobody's going to remember that right now, here now, but this would get this slide in the hope. Let me go back to the beginning then, since I didn't expect to begin that. Technology and administration. When we first started out, any business starts out with initiating new technology. They go out and buy a piece of technology. QuickBooks is one I hear all the time, to do accounting. But what connection does it have to anything else you do? Nothing but human beings putting in transactions and things of that nature. Now I want to find out, I'm the new president of our club, and I want to find out how much we spent on a raffle last year. Can I get it? No, I have to go and talk to somebody, even if there's no connection. Good product, but it's very separate. Same thing happened with websites. Various clubs went out there and said, hey, I want a website. And they went and put one up. And then another club, and then another club, and then you have Rotary International, then you have the district. But again, where's the connection? Well, we can link. I can put a link on there. Does that draw me into anything? Because I can click on somewhere or go there. Why do I want to go there? My website has to do something with content to convince you to go to the district. Furthermore, do I want to put the same stuff on my website that you already have on your websites? Say you have an event or a calendar, or say that a new membership kit for clubs was a good one. They sat there and came to me and my club and said, hey, put that on our website. My reaction is, why? It's already on Rotary International. Don't we know how to get it? Does anyone communicate about that stuff? So we also have things like Club Runner, DACDB, and there's been a number of other products and services that have been purchased and put out there. And so basically we're now standing as a district with many different types of sites, many places that we put content, worldwide as well as very local. It's time to go to the next step, which is investigate and experiment how we bring everything together so that the user can have a good experience working with each other, as Art was saying. Right now, we're in the first step of doing that relative to our district. And I've got to give comments to Alan, Abe, and Jay for informally coming together and saying, we need to make technology span more than each club, more than each district, more than each governor and administration. Somehow we've got to come up with a strategy-driven means to make all this come together, because it's just too big for one person to do. Alan can't come up and learn all this new technology and then suddenly tell everybody, hey, we're going to have a Skype video conference instead of a live conference. The first thing he's saying is, well, I can get on, but how do the rest of them get on? How do we interact? How do I do a presentation? How do I sing to everybody? We've got to come up with a way to do that. When I say we, we're talking about a technology committee that they put together, asking some volunteers to start thinking ahead, put up a district website, but also start experimenting and finding out how to bring it together in a very simple way. And so hence, the technology committee is born. Michael right now is the chairman of the technology committee that consists of only 4 of us. We're hoping more will be joining Phil and helping guide us more and more in doing this. But what we want to put in place is a way to integrate everything. How do we we all come together to make it easy so that the arts of the world can lead teams that span multiple clubs, that span multiple causes, and things of that nature. Ease of use and support at a low cost. Number one thing you got to think about when you're working with technology. Because if it costs too much, not worth it. Nobody's going to use it. And especially smaller clubs of 15, 16, which we have many that are around 15, 16. Increased participation and collaboration. As you heard Art, that is one of his key challenges right now. How do I get people to continue to participate, and how do I get them to exchange information so tasks get done? Increasing membership. That's one that always surprises everybody. Well, if you're talking about technology, what's that have to do with increasing membership? We need to pull the members in. And the idea behind the web, as Phil, Mike, and then we'll start telling you, is push things on people. The mass emails we get, that's pushing. Hey, please join my club. Push it on. How many of you read that? How many of you skip a lot of emails? Come on, be honest. I know I do. I read the subject line, and I'm out of here. Or, better yet, I'll put it in my to-be-read folder that has 500 unread emails. That's pushing. What we want to do is much more of a pull, increase membership, have people going, this is what I want to do. Pull me to here. This is how I can do it. Pull me to here. Oh, it's not that tough at all. Touch a button. I'm part of the Rotary Club. Who do I go talk to? How do I operate? One of the first things that I have with my friends is they say, I don't want to be part of Rotary because I don't want to go to meetings. I don't want meetings. And it's so hard to get them to understand that's not what it's about. You don't have. There's so many ways to do participation. I need to pull them in by having content on the website to be able to say, here, take a look at this. And you'll find out. Because they're not going to give me 10 minutes to explain to them why Rotary Club is not that way. Increase efficiency on tasks involved with supporting. Basically, it's get it done at a lower cost to the participants. Time is of value because we're a volunteer group. And being a volunteer group means it's free time I'm giving away. And I don't have all the time in the world. So how can I do what I'm doing for you, Art, easier and better than technology? So, I don't know if there are any questions right now, but just interrupt, please. One of the first things I wanted to differentiate for you in planting some of these seeds is what's the difference in a blog, a forum, social network? You hear all these different types of technologies. And we on the technology community that have a lot of experience with technology have the same problem. Where should we implement something? How should we do something? There are great debates between, I tell you, Michael and Phil and I can 45 minutes talk about one issue, pros, cons, and all that. There's no right answer. A very good example of this that we had, Alan, was registration. We sat down at Alan's house asking, how do we register for this? You have the Interact Club, Rotaract Club, Rotary, add the combinations of services like Eventbrite, which one of them want to use. We have our own district website, which can do registration. We have DADCDB, which can do registration. We have Facebook, and many others. There are 7 or 8 different ways we can do registration. It gets overwhelming, complexity. The best analogy I've heard to put this in perspective is, we've all gone to conferences, just like here, and we've all experienced what they're like. One of the first things is keynote speakers. A blog, which everyone says, I need a blog, you need a blog to do something. It's nothing but a keynote speaker that's speaking one way. Let me give you my expertise. Let me tell you what I think. Here is my blog. Please come visit me. And they make money by advertising and stuff of that nature. And the more participants they have, the more that they're famous, just like an author. But it's basically a one-way conversation. Yes, you can post responses on, and they will moderate things, which is a forum. But basically, it's the keynote speaker performance. We have a need for blogs, and a lot of it, don't know. Each of you need to talk about that for your own websites. Social networks are like topics and tables at the conference luncheon. So here we are, we're going to break today. We're going to have a keynote speaker, and you're probably going to start gathering around tables, talking to your friends about certain topics. Gee, I really like the video. I'm trying to come back here to ASU again for another round. And so I was just talking to, what was his name? Richard. Asking him if he was going to ASU, and he was just shocked when I said, yeah, I'm trying to also on sustainability, because it doesn't matter what age. Well, I'm anxious to go talk to him. Odds are at lunch, I'm going to go sit by him. I'm having a social network with him and his fellow students and whoever else I can. So it's voluntarily that you go there. There's no structure to it. And that's what coming together with cause for social reasons. And you're very comfortable with posting things there. Is it necessarily for business? I'm not necessarily exchanging business with Richard. I'm just getting a feel, stuff of that nature. Forums are like social mixers, and that's where you do your breakout section. Hey, at the end of this conference, over here, we're going to have drinks and everything to talk about DACDB. Over here, we're going to talk about Facebook. Over here, we're going to talk. Now you have a cause that you want to exchange information on, cause that can be used to coordinate you, to collaborate, to get ideas. That's what a forum is. Social media. Again, there are so many choices out there, from Twitter to Facebook to MySpace, Yahoo, and Google Plus now that has just come out. But before you jump on those, you've got to think about what is it I'm going to get from them. Michael will go much more into that, but I just want to differentiate that you've got all these choices. The minute you say, hey, let's just go do social media. I have so many people tell me that all the time, and it's like, for what? What do you want to do? Might be a great way to increase membership, but does this help with administration? Necessarily? Not often. We did a registration with it, but now I have to come and get the registration information from Michael and put it where? If A wants to know how many people attended this last year, where do we get them? So there's some challenges with it. DACDB. That's a new product, District and Club Database. Got an original name. Basically what it does is take care of your membership. Try to keep track of it. It also has a couple other functions that we're using. Events and calendars, so that we can start posting information about what's going on when. And then other ancillary functions it has is mass email. They call it P-mail. Now, how many of you have events going on in your clubs that you would love other Rotarians to go to? Practically all of them. So, do you want to just go and do mass email to everybody? Push on them about those events?
Of course.
We get requested by that all the time. Here's the problem. If all of you are allowed to do that, and you're just a small part of the 1,200 people in our club, in our district, 40-some clubs, how many emails does everybody can get about every event that's going on all the time? You got the challenge here, business-wise. The technology, easy to do. We can do that with no problem whatsoever. The challenge is the business side. We have to make policies on who can and can't do that. We have to make policies on how big the calendars can be. And we've just started doing that. That's what that experimentation is. DACDB also, part of why it was purchased, in my understanding, I was new to the club as I started doing it, was that it has an interface with Rotary International, so that many of the small clubs can come up, keep all their information, their club membership, things of that nature, and it's automatically done in our eye. So that coordinates us in our eye. There's a business purpose here, so it has some value to all of us. Unfortunately, as much as we pay per month, how much do we know we're really saving? The point being is a lot of times when you put technology in, you can't really measure the benefits you get. It takes a little leadership to say, we're just going to do it this way. But that creates a little bit of a political problem. We still have a number of people on clubs like Club Runner. There's some that don't want to be on Club Runner or DAC. And then when you add into all the different databases that they have out there about who current members are, between their website, between QuickBooks, which is keeping track of district dues, between DACDB, Rotary International, this is getting kind of confusing already. And this is just membership. You understand where all this is going to say. I mentioned that you have content, communications, and those 6 C's that we need to work with. When we built the district website, we chose Joomla, which stands for basically all together, we're coming together. For one reason, low cost, well, one reason, for the 6 C's, basically, but it's low cost, it's fairly easy to learn, and it's being built so that the average users can learn to write articles, provide information, something like that. I'm mentioning this only because Joomla is going to be coming up over the next couple of years. You're going to hear this more and more and more. But it's simply the basis, the content management system, which our district website's built on. So it has all these different capabilities that we can do that we're not even touching. It can also do calendaring. It can do do events, it can do mass emails, it can do advertising, it can do banners. You name it, it can pretty much do it. And most of it's free, other than volunteer time. Now, putting all this together, we only have talked about 3 types of technology so far: DACDD, Joomla, and social media. When you go to the back end of external products that all these things can support, it gets pretty confusing. This is, I would say, if I put all the different functions, business functions that we have between just these 3 products, it would probably be about 48, if my estimates are correct. And that gets even more confusing. Getting back to the #1 goal, doing more and more easily, making it easy for the user, is the whole purpose of what our district website is put up for. How do we have an end user come to one place and get to all that information, coordinate all that information? That's what we're trying to do with the website. Here's our district website. With ordinary people can achieve grand results. At this point, I wanted to just break out and start asking you what other areas you might want to cover. I've got other slides and things of that nature, because in 45 minutes, I can't possibly show you 45 or 50 different functions. But I want to gather from you in this small time frame things that you would like to discuss, things that you think us as a technology committee need to address and need to start showing. We already know about websites. That's why Phil's up here. We already know about social media. People want to know more about that. How you came up and said, I want to know more about Facebook and social media. So we've got those 2 sessions. For the remaining 20 minutes of this session, I'd like to have this much more interactive about what is it you want to know, what is it you have a challenge with, and where you want to go. And I'll answer as best I can, and then make these topics on our website and start answering the questions.
I think the biggest thing with our club is we're trying to get into social media, but we're having difficulty between the non-technical people and people who are trying the technical media. And we're trying to bridge a very large gap. And the thing is, it's really difficult to figure out how to get started, figure out what first small steps to take rather than just plunging everybody into Facebook and have no idea how to use it or what to do with it.
How did you come up with using Facebook? Whose idea was that?
Just because it's the most popular.
And somebody in your club suggested it, and a couple jumped on board.
Yeah, so I just went online and I have a Facebook account. I just created a Facebook group with a few of our Rotary board on it. And just like, we're all staring at each other, wondering what to do.
And that comes up with, the same things happened to us on the technology committee, by the way. With what skill sets that we have, guess what we're proposing that should be used? What skill sets we have. In your case, a few people came up and said Facebook is an answer. We want to do Facebook. Did anyone take the time to ask them what goals are you going to achieve for the club using Facebook? That's one of the first places to start. Is get out of the technology first and ask yourself basic business questions and always link the 2. I always say, and Mike will tell you, in the rear, in our technology committee meetings, what's that have to do with increasing membership? What's that have to do with lowering costs? So we're going to put time and effort into it. And even though Howard's volunteering his time, or Michael's volunteering his time, or Phil, what is that time getting back to the club? Because they could easily be doing something else.
2 biggest challenges for us, obviously, are membership and fundraising. So off the top of my head, I'd say that's actually where the board we want to go with it.
And that's where I would start is with the board. And in fact, that's where I'm starting with the district. I've gone to Alan, I've gone to Abe, I've gone to Jay, technology committee, and I'm starting to try to get a strategy of what is it we want to do with this technology. And how are we going to get the skill sets to do it? Being a volunteer group. Because you might want to go Facebook, but if you have 40 people in your club, and 3 know it, how are you going to get the 37 to participate? It's a problem. It's an organizational problem, as Art was talking about. Art, are you a technologist? Yeah, you like technology? You program, you get into it, you build all the websites? Okay, we're fortunate there. Oh, no. Nope. Most people don't. And here he is standing up saying, I need it. So you got to go to your club and find out who can support teaching the other 37 people. So what are your goals? And then how do you get your resources in order to make those happen? The last thing is management, measuring it. What I'm proposing and trying to push through over the next 3 years is for us a strategy. Very simple. You know, don't quote this. This is not something written. Abe and Jay and Al haven't said, yes, we're doing this. But it relates to what he's saying. Start small. Put a couple critical goals and train and support key officers and committees and leaders of your club. Right now, I've volunteered my time for those 3 people, the district governors. If they learn to use technology, I'll help them with their technology. Abe is getting help right now on getting laptops and tablets and whatever he needs. I'm going to work with him in the car. But the agreement is, Abe, you've got to learn to use some of that stuff and use it for the district.
Who's laughing?
Same thing with Al. So that's a place that I would start there. Your business and the club for the technology. Afterwards, you'll find that there's a lot of technologies that are inexpensive that can really make it work.
Howard, there's so many nuances to this world. You just talked about the push. You were talking about mass email. Alan and I had a conversation recently about a communication I wanted to send out, and he allowed me to do that. But the reality is, I was looking at the spread of information because I felt it was necessary to do that for my reasons. And yet, as I listen to what you're saying, the identification process has become much more critical than it was. If you want to have a meeting, you picked up the phone and you called the people that you wanted to have a meeting with. You picked the time and you picked the place, and because you called those people and they said they would be there, you knew what you were going to do. Now what happens is you're trying to identify a need or a reason for a communication. How do you identify each specific when in your mind the need is overall, and we have a gatekeeping problem. If you send that communication to the person you believe you should send it to, it would be the club president. I can tell you, having visited with a number of club presidents as an AG and in the system, they become gatekeepers. If they decide that that communication is not going to conflict with personalities or with events or directions that they have proposed for their club, then they will disseminate that information. If not, it stops there, and you think you've sent it to the club. In reality, you've sent it to the president who has stopped it. My year, I sent all the communications to every member that I received. But I can tell you that the person preceding me, coming after me, did not do that. Because there was communications that I was being asked, did you get this? No. And then after I queried, the president said, I didn't think it was important for you to get it. So if you try to determine the process, you've got people in the process that act as those gatekeepers. So how do you avoid not wanting to send it to everyone? I mean, I understand the system and I understand why. I just can't figure out how to make it work for the general public within our system.
There's a number of components that we want to talk about to address that issue. First thing is I want to do an analogy is how do you manage your money right now? I mean, the district has money. You're collecting money from all the members, and you have to go through presidents and treasurers and all that, right? How do you manage that today in the district? You just go out and ask every member to pay their dues? Do I get an email from you or the district? You can change the name. But there's a structure behind it, isn't there? And there's a force or an urgency or an importance that the president, the gatekeepers you're talking about, or whoever they are, understand and abide by, and therefore pass it on. Think of information as currency, because that's all it is. I can tell you, the parallel between accounting since the 1400s when they started double digit, and technology, since technology has always existed, but we usually associate it with the 40s and the 60s, 40s and 50s, are virtually the same type of evolution. And it's only now that we're understanding that information is just like a currency that you have to manage, that you have to plan, that you have to have policies around it. What is worth sending to everybody who wants to know. Notice that it's not a technology problem. Technologies can get things you can send to every member of that. Take one step back, go back to your board and start talking about it. What are our big goals, and how does what you think has to go to everyone fit into that, compared to all the others that want to go into that. And you have to prioritize. Notice that it's a business problem, and it's a business solution. Now, there are better ways to get to everybody without pushing. Remember I said pulling? Social media is a great example. And if you're talking about that, if you believe this is a very good cause, and I can teach you, or Michael teaches you to get on Facebook, and people have begun understanding that this is where Abe and his causes come, they will start coming to you to get that information. Hey, what's going on this weekend? We had Rotary Track, Jessica, come to our club a few Tuesdays ago. And she was sitting there basically begging, you're a club. We don't have much money, but you know, we have time. Please, tell us where to volunteer our time. I'm sitting there just fascinated. She's going club to club saying, I've got people, I'll get more people. But how does word get out? What do we do with it? So, putting us on Facebook, which is one of the things our club wants to do, will help us draw a little more. Put a calendar out there. Urge people, put these videos you saw. I saw that video and it touched my heart. We need to learn to pull rather than push. So those are two quick analogies on how you have to start at the top. Again, answering in 2 minutes because it's all a problem.
As a president, how do we know what this content is?
And that's funny. One of the first very simple solutions relative to technology that I'm trying to pass on, and I had a chance to talk to all of you, is you know when you get an email message, a lot of times it says FW:, right? I think all we need to do is, and I've done this in other organizations, is you need to use acronyms in front of your subject. Something that says, that stands for, this has gone out to all members. This has gone out to presidents, PO, and things of that nature. If we adopt something that simple, then when all the emails come through, we'll know what to read, what not to read, and it won't get passed on. Because I got to admit, one of the biggest complaints I personally have, as well as everyone that comes to me, is there's too much email. I'm just overwhelmed. I don't even want to read it because it hits me. Yet at the same time, what's funny, when I ask the very same people that hate email, what's the first thing you do when you get up? Well, I look at the news and I read my email. So how can we get them to, instead of read their email, get onto a website and pull what they're interested in, reading what they want? One of the best apps I've got is called News 360. A couple guys in Russia went out and all their services, they go out and read all the newspapers and everything that's published, right? Drop back in and categorize it and prioritize it by what people are reading. And I have found now, I don't even want to watch the news. I get up in the morning, I grab my iPad, I hit that News 360. Here's the categories of information: top stories, latest news, science, whatever. Imagine if we did something like that on the district website. Suddenly the news is going to be Rotary Foundation, events for this week, where we can use time, things people are interested in, and you're drawing them in.
I have a little bit of a different problem. I'm the youth exchange chair for the district, and we have, and I understand I understand the need for boiling it down, and I understand that. Our need is different. For instance, like in hosting, we had and always need host families, and usually during the year we will need a host family that we weren't planning on. As things happen, the 3 families that we have set up, if somebody gets sick, somebody has a divorce, somebody moves, it happens. My problem is we are crunched on time for this, and we have to abide by Department of State regulations and Rotary International regulations. So publication, publicizing on Facebook does not work. We are not allowed to do that. We cannot beg, we cannot make people guilty. Here's the problem. When we send it only to presidents, the presidents monitor and they decide, well, we're not interested. They see it's youth exchange, we're not hosting, we're not interested. They also, every club is in a different, every person in a club is in different areas. We have people that I'm a South Tempe club, and we have, somebody that lives in Gilbert, somebody that lives in Phoenix, somebody that, Chandler, everybody's from different areas. So every club school district
Right.
doesn't work.
Push
Because
doesn't work.
somebody maybe in West Phoenix, goes to West Phoenix Club, but they live in this area we need.
Right.
So I have to be able to get that out, and I don't know how to do that because presidents just assume it's not them and they delete it. So
Right.
here's where I really, we've always had it in years past, and it's been difficult for the club, or the committee to understand. We've had it before, we can't have it now. I need to be able to do something in an emergency and be able to reach people in clubs.
Two problems. First one is good old-fashioned business. I mean, just the way other groups are saying and need volunteers and money, whether it's for breast cancer or polio or whatever the case may be, you've got a marketing leadership issue. And that's business, that's not technology. So you got to think about what is it that's stopping people from volunteering, from caring, from coming out. You've got to do a little bit of marketing. You might build a website or something of that. You can create a form in a matter of minutes, somewhere that people go for that cause that you can pull them into, so that they then can get the information they need. When it comes to host families, a lot of people I know that talk about, oh my God, what's the requirements? What am I going to do? All that information you can't talk about in an elevator in 15 seconds. You need somewhere to go to get that concrete information to work with, and that's where technology comes in. So two things. One, marketing. You got to find somebody. That's my weak point. I need help with marketing all the time. I'm great at knowing a good cause. I'm great at making it happen in operations. Going out there marketing and getting everybody's attention is tough. You got to do a little bit of politics, obviously. If you can sound and A and J, guess what? You're their best friend. I'm just being honest here. They'll probably prioritize it a little more, won't they? Again, nothing to do with technology. Good old-fashioned leadership. When it comes down to technology, there's 4 or 5 different ways you can do it. Get a host family to write a little bit about on Facebook or something. Or create, for me, I'm into forms right now. I'm trying to push everybody to forms. Because the form is where people can go to get all their information. And it's very specific. And it's not public-wide. Everybody that's on that forum is very interested in talking about that topic. And then you can advertise the forum instead of individual challenges. So those are 2 high-level quick answers. And we can talk some more. Art?
I think one of the things that is a solution to some of this is developing some pacts or agreements between leadership as to where we're going to agree to look for information that we will then disseminate or evaluate to work with you on. One of the challenges that I have, of course, is I've got a huge region. I've got 14 districts. I've got governor chains coming up in all of those districts, foundation leadership teams, and all of that. I know they're inundated with email and all of these other things that are out there trying to communicate. And so I made a pact when I came on as the RFC with these district leaders and said, look, let's make a deal. I won't inundate you with all of this email and stuff. Every time there's information you need to know about foundation, things that are happening in this area, I'm going to agree to put out for you once a month a 4-page, never more than that, condensation of the things that you most will need to know about new things about foundation. In one place you can look, the website, I'll send it to you, but I'm not going to inundate you with all the rest of this. If you agree with me, I'll put it here, you look for it there, and this has been working quite well.
Yeah, and technology-wise, back to your problem with the challenge on getting homes and stuff, one of the things I would say to him, and I've already said to M1A, but then that's a good example of a blog. If he goes out there, people think blogs are just advertising general information. No, it's a place that a single person goes to disseminate information. So you can be a leader and use a blog. So that instead of going to your email, he goes up, writes, here's the 4 things going on, here's what else has been happening relative to these topics. It's a place for everyone to come. Now, for individual websites, he doesn't have to disseminate it because we can link that information in automatically. We can do what's called news feeds. Have you've heard of RSS? What's that stand for, Michael?
Real simple syndication.
Real simple syndication. I've never heard of this. But what that does is right into your email, right onto your iPhone, right wherever you are, it'll send out information automatically. But here's what's different. It's by volunteer. It's only because I said I wanted to. So in his case, his leaders would say, I want an RSS coming to me when the 4 more most important things are today, tomorrow. You can set up any time frame you want. In which case, all he's doing is writing his information of what's important, and it's all automated. And then they all get it. Automatically, he knows they're getting it. So I'm just using that as one example for a piece of technology to be able to set. But it all started, notice, with the leader saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say what's important. I'm going to prioritize. And I'm sure he doesn't like forward. But it started with the human being doing something, not the technology. And yet, too often, we all want to jump to technology and think, this is going to solve my problem. It really doesn't. Always start with business. Others? We have 3 minutes. Other issues, questions? Anything that I missed? And I know, again, 45 minutes is hard to do. Enough time to talk about everything in detail. But
You had so much energy in this room just 15 minutes ago. The person needs the host. Best thing to do is ask one of the young kids, they sell their parents on it in 5 seconds. Because they know they can go abroad and do the same thing eventually if they're interested. I've always found I've done with the kids and the teenagers, and the parents are not going to say no most of the time. Let us think about it. But then getting back to the premise here that you've got, setting up maybe 3 or 4 goals. I can see the host, I can see the accounting, I can see the volunteers, because I volunteered quite a bit. And so I'd like to go to where Brody has, if we need some volunteers tomorrow at a certain time to do a certain job. And then, everybody can go on that page and say, yeah, that's something I'd like to do.
And there's a good example. Here's somebody that has some good ideas for you. Here's somebody that wants to help, but didn't know anything about what you were doing. If we had a place to send him to, he could have sat there and he could put all his ideas out there. He can start participating. He can put connections, linking, all that. You don't need to go to LinkedIn or Facebook necessarily. Just a place to go. Whether that's a website, or forum, or Facebook, we don't. That is technology. We can talk later with your resources. But again, there's a lot of people that want to participate. So where do they go?
Well, yeah, and we've had so much in the last 5 years with state regulations.
Sure.
All we're doing is we're just treading water.
Yeah.
We're getting ahead, we're getting where we're getting feet. So this is very helpful. I would be very interested in.
Excellent. One last question then, because our time's up. Go ahead.
Is it fair to assume that everybody has internet access? Our club, the Sun Lakes Rotary Club, the average age is 68, 70. We have a lot of people that have never been on it, could care less about it. Bugs the hell out of me because I have information there that they're saying they need. But most of you have a lot of younger people in it. Is that a fair assumption from your standpoint?
No, I wouldn't assume that. In fact, here's what I would say when I go into an organization all the time is, what resources do you have to work with? If you don't have enough resources to work with the internet and to teach it, to get those to understand it, don't use it. It's not going to be very effective. On the other hand, and there's your weakness to go out and get some numbers that have that sort of thing. The other thing about technology and the internet, and everyone's making an assumption on it, is how to use it. For what? Just because they have internet access, again, what are you going to do? You have to be able to advertise to them and convince them. The last thing I'm going to say is relative to the elderly that we are, the fastest growing segment of the internet is fast. Above and beyond. They are adapting it. The minute they're taught, the minute they learn it, they love it. Because they find out they can socialize and they have the time to volunteer and they get the wisdom out there and it really makes a difference. But it's teaching and training first. So I wouldn't make the assumption, but I might grab it and try to make it